Have you ever felt invisible, as if their emotions and their presence does not matter? Imagine you find out from one minute to the next, which, in addition to being excluded from the party, you became the reason of a joke. Who would you at home? Don't get invited, right? The sensation of his colleagues laughed at you, even without you being there. That is something that cuts deep. Is this pain in silence, that it often becomes hidden behind a smile? It's hard to explain, but it is precisely this experience that I want to share with you today. When you think of a party, think of joy, togetherness, celebration. However, when it was supposed to be a time of happiness becomes the scene of humiliation, here's how it all started for me. One night, a moment that was supposed to be fun has turned into a bitter memory. I found that while I was out, someone decided to laugh at me, and what was worse, made fun of my frizzy hair, my style of riding, all of my plain clothes, all of them in a way that was joking, but he was carrying a cargo of emotional abuse so strong to be ignored. Stay with me till the end, because this story has a message that goes above and beyond my own pain. She reveals the reality that many people face, and silently, which is still very common in our society. What are you going to find out now? You will be surprised. It is a story of pain, and in some instances, the dehumanization, but also in power and endurance. Behind every joke, the evil, there is a wound that is too often it is hidden away, and a wound that will profoundly mark who is the subject of it. And that hurt, too many times, only to be confronted with all the time, when the shame and the embarrassment is already installed. Have you ever gone through something like this? Have you ever felt the weight of the humiliation that I left without a voice? Stay with me, because that's all I'm going to tell you right now. It's the beginning of a story, which may help you to understand how racism is veiled disguise of fun, but it can cause damage that will last a lifetime. From here, I want to start with a reflection on the which is really not acceptable in a relationship, because unfortunately, it is not the whole joke is harmless, and not all of the deletion, it's just a simple decision to be social. If you've been through something similar, or know of someone else who has faced this kind of situation, you know how hard it is to deal with that as invisible. That often gets glossed over by the laughter in the comments that you seem to be innocent. It's critical that the people to reflect on the impact of these attitudes, even when they seem small to even the ordinary in our day-to-day. After all, every comment, every action, however small it may seem, contributes to the shaping of the environment in which we live. If this topic makes no sense to you, leave it here in the comments which one you played, or any experience that you would like to share. If you want to help someone who feels alone in this fight, and we continue to build the network, empathy, and awareness. I also want to invite you to like the video, because it is a way of showing that you value and believe in the importance of discussing issues such as this one. And if you want to keep up with most of the stories, reflections, and discussions like this one, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Your being here is what makes that space to grow and to reach more people with this message of respect and self-reflection. So, we went on this journey together to learn, understand, and change. Then, continue on to me, because there's still so much to be explored and discussed in this universe that we're building together. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation often begins with just those details that usually go unnoticed. Have you ever stopped to think about it? On the back of the simplest of decisions in the day-to-day, there are invisible layers, which helps to shape who we are and how we act. These layers are often related to one's beliefs deeply rooted in our history, the personal, the emotions that have built up over time without even realizing it. It's as if we're living inside of a box of mirrors, where each of the reflections revealing a part of us, but it also limits us to hold on to a pattern of behavior that appears to automatic or inevitable. Over the years, I've believed that change was a bit difficult, almost in a battle against a force greater than ourselves, and that it required a force of will, discipline, and a serious determination to be almost a god. But the real revelation came when I realized that this fight came to an internal narrative that has been built up over the course of the time, often without our conscious awareness. This is where it comes to the impact of our decision-making, the most quiet in operation. To decide, for example, to maintain a position of strength, or the acceptance of a choice between fear and hope, between doubt and trust. Each and every one of these choices, however small it may seem, is constructed or deconstructed, our authenticity and our journey of transformation. And it is at this point that the truth is hidden. It begins to appear, many times, the change is not dependent on external forces or in an impossible situation, but rather a decision by the internal, and of a genuine connection to what truly matters. When we let go of the illusion of control that is outside of ourselves, we begin to realize that the power to change our reality, that is the way we choose to see our own story. It's not a question of denying the obstacles, but to learn how to engage with them, and to turn every challenge into an opportunity for growth. This is a change of mindset as a key to unlock the doors which before seemed to be closed forever. To understand this impact, we start to see behind the scenes of our life to a whole new level. Many of the times, and to the limits of what we believe to be merely a reflection of a narrative in which we learn and internalize. It's as if our emotions were hidden wires that connect our actions to that which we believe to be true about ourselves. And And at the same time, these emotions, they also carry a great potential for transformation. For it to make sense of it, we can reschedule this internal narrative and create a new era of empowerment and authenticity. All of this shows that the path to true change is not a straight line, not a magic bullet. It is a journey of self-discovery, of myself, of our beliefs, the question of what we have learned, and to open up the space for new understanding. It's a constant search for an alignment between the way we think, feel, and act. Each and every decision, however small it may seem, it is a critical piece in the puzzle of change. And when you realize this, we begin to realize the impact we have on the world begins inside of us, in our ability to make decisions and to act with a conscience. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the connection between decision-making, change, and impact, to reveal a powerful truth. We're the authors of our own stories, even though many times we may be stuck to the pages that have already been written. Each new chapter begins with a choice, and this choice is an opportunity to rewrite, which seem to be set in stone. The freedom to change, to evolve, it is close at hand. All we need is the courage to take that first step, to look beyond the surface and to allow us to look at ourselves, and with more sincerity and compassion. It is at this point that we realize that the transformation is not a destination, but a continuous journey, a daily practice to reconnect with what really matters to you. And practice begins with the decision to want to look beyond the obvious, to challenge our own limits, and to take advantage of the potential that we have within us. Because, deep down, the biggest revelation is that all change begins in the mind and heart. And to align these two things, you can create a reality that seemed to be far away or out of reach. He writes that, "It makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation happens when people can't understand that it all begins with a decision. You decide to move, deciding to evolve, and you decide to see beyond what our eyes normally see. And this decision is not something that happens from one moment to another. It is the result of a journey into the inner of an earnest quest for authenticity and a genuine desire to break away from the limits. Too often we get stuck in a comfort zone, believing that what we have is enough, and that's who we are. It's enough for you that you can be. But, in fact, that's one of the biggest lies we tell in order to justify the adjustment. When we started to question this narrative, we begin to realize that the borders seem to be over the limit. They are, for the most part, the weather, the buildings of mind, a kind of invisible wall that exists only in our mind, which is fed by fears, doubts, and limiting beliefs. The most fascinating part of it is that, while acknowledging the existence of these barriers, we have the chance to live in a whole lot of them. It all starts with a simple choice. Either you decide that you want to see the truth hidden behind those walls is mind. That's what's important, to explore what really motivates us to do, to figure out what our core values, and to align these values with our actions every day. This process of alignment is a true transformation of the mind. It's not just about changing behaviors on the surface, but rather to rethink the way we view life, our decisions, and the impact of that. We want to make it in the world. When you can't do that, we begin to see the possibilities before you, invisible, the opportunities that were hidden under a layer of fear and uncertainty. The feeling of waking up to a new reality. It's like opening your eyes after a long sleep. All of a sudden, it all becomes more clear, more vivid, fuller than full potential. And here comes one point that many people often overlook, is the importance of nurturing this mindset on a daily basis. Because, like any change, it doesn't happen all at once. It is a solid construction, an exercise in self-awareness, and, of course, felt. Every decision we make, every thought of what you eat, has a direct influence on our way of development. It is as if we are writing a new chapter in the narrative, and that narrative needs to be fed with the clear intent, with an attitude in line with what you truly believe in and we want it to. After all, it is the real change comes not from the outside, but from the inside to the outside of a conscious decision of becoming the best version of yourself. And then, when you connect these dots, we can see that the biggest revelation of the day, we are the only ones responsible for the impact of what we produce in our lives and in those around us. It's not a question of luck, fate, or external circumstances, but rather the choices that the internal shape of the U.S. When it comes to this responsibility, the courage, you start to realize that the power to change everything around us is, in fact, in all of us. And this realization is liberating because it gives you the freedom to create, to innovate, to rewrite our history at any given time. Now, I want you to go even deeper on this subject, because many times, this is a journey of transformation reveals a hidden truth that had been hiding underneath the layers of fear, self-doubt, or even to a false sense of stagnation. This may surprise some people. When they come to the surface, they may seem daunting, but in fact, they are the starting point for a profound change, and long-lasting. It's as if, when you open your eyes to those behind the scenes to internal, we begin to see with clarity who we really are and what you really want. And so, the decision to move on, if it makes you a stronger, more authentic, more in line with something that beats in your heart. And it is this connection between the mind, the heart, and the action is the one that forms the base of a solid to a life of purpose and impact. Because when you understand that our choices shape our reality, we begin begin to act with more awareness, more understanding. Every step you take, every choice is a chance to say who you are and what you want to build. And in the process, we have discovered that the transformation is not something that is external, but the internal developments, which is reflected in the world around us. It is a journey of self-discovery and constant, in which each congregation and serves as a mirror that helps us to adjust the direction and intensity of the way. So, considering all this, it is clear that the key to it is the courage to explore these behind the scenes, to internal challenge and what we think will be of truth, and to embrace the vulnerability, such as a strong ally in the process of growing up. Because deep down, it's only when we allow ourselves to look with honesty where we find the answers that you have been searching for. And all these answers, they give us the strength we need to move forward even in the face of difficulties, because we know that we are aligning our actions with what is most true about us. He writes in, "I'm on this journey too. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, for it is precisely in this moment of self-discovery that so many people are starting to realize something, which until then was largely unnoticed: the true strength that lies within each and every one of us. When you stop to think about it, the more it seems simple to understand that our choices shape our entire career. It's like opening a door to a world of possibilities in what seem to be invisible. Each and every choice we make, however small it may seem, carries a giant impact, and understand that this is the first step in the transformation needs. This is not only to understand the motions, but to immerse themselves in the essence of what it truly moves our thoughts, emotions, and especially to our deepest beliefs. It is at this point that we begin to unravel the truth which is hidden by the back of the limitations of the stories that we tell about ourselves and the words we use to define who we are. When you look at the inside, we've found a kind of a mirror that reveals our own forces, and of the hidden ones, the ones that are often hidden beneath layers of fear, doubt, or even to a sense of complacency. We found that in the majority of the time, the thing that keeps us from moving forward is not an external force, but it is a strength that we have created within ourselves. It's like a battle to be silent, where the enemy is most difficult to overcome is our own mind. And, in the process, there are patterns that are repetitive behaviors that seem to be automatic, like we're stuck in a script that we were not able to write it in a different way. But the real revelation is precisely in the capacity of rewriting this screenplay, turning every obstacle into an opportunity for growth, and the understanding that real change starts from the inside out. When we are in this journey of self-discovery, we started to see the connections before they seemed to not be seen. We noticed that our emotions, in order to, for example, does not come out of thin air, but carry important messages about what we see and how we are relating to ourselves and the world around us. Every feeling, whether of joy, sorrow, fear, or hope, she reveals a part of who we are, in fact. And once you understand these signals, we can start to work with them rather than hide them or deny them. It's a kind of awakening of our authenticity. It gives you the courage to make decisions that are aligned with who you really are. This authenticity is, in turn, has a direct influence on our ability to positively impact the people around us, creating a chain of processing that begins within each and every one of us. Over the course of the journey, we have also found that the change isn't something that happens the day and into the night. It's an ongoing process, construction, daily small actions that, when accumulated, will create a great revolution on the inside. With every step, however small it may seem, he says. And the most important thing is to learn how to trust in the process, even when the results seem to be far away, or when the path that presents itself is also full of challenges. In the end, the real power lies in the persistence, the ability to maintain focus in the core. Even when it's all around, you try to steer us away from our purpose. And it is at this point that we realize that the transformation is not simply about achieving goals outside, but it is a movement of indigenous development, with a much deeper connection with who we are of the truth and the impact that we can make to live a more self-aware, more in tune, and closer to the truth. Now, I want you to go deep into this subject. It is because of this connection. The interior is what really makes all the difference in our journey of growth. When you can't look into honestly, you start to realize all the little truths that are often ignored in the day-to-day to those who bear the power to change our way of thinking, acting, and feeling. It's as if the light will begin to shine a light on the darkest corners of one's soul, revealing the ways that before seemed to be closed and dark. And with that clarity comes with a responsibility to take care of our mind, our emotions, and our decision-making with the most care and love. After all, it is the impact of each and every one of these choices that resonates far beyond what we imagine. Influence not only your life, but also of the universe around us. It's a real journey of self-transformation, where each step is taken with authenticity and courage, to us even closer to our deepest truth. And it is precisely here that we find a powerful link between who we are and who we can become. When we align our actions with our values as a more honest, we can begin to feel a sense of peace that seemed to be out of reach. Such a peace, for his part, gives us the strength to weather any storm, and knowing that we are moving in the right direction, and based on our experiences. This is not a quest for perfection, but a conscious acceptance of who we truly are, with all our flaws and strengths. By taking this approach, we begin to see the obstacles as opportunities to learn, and failures as stepping stones are essential in the ladder of growth. This change in perspective is what truly makes the difference in our ability to transform the difficulties of the great victories are personal to you. All of this brings us to a crucial point: the idea that the real transformation is about having the courage to confront our own stories, to challenge our limiting beliefs, and, above all, embrace the vulnerability, such as a friend. Because you are, in essence, there is no greater power than that of the courage to be true to yourself, admit your fears, and work to overcome them. And in doing so, we set out to build a new narrative, one that is more in tune with our dreams, with more of the deep, and the impact you want to leave out in the world. It is this constant movement of self-discovery that we find the true freedom that comes from the inside, and that allows us to live more fully, consciously, and it is true. And so, the journey becomes an adventure of discovery of constants. Each of the revelation urges us to look forward with more determination and hope. He writes in, "I'm on this journey too. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, for it is precisely at this point that a lot of people are starting to realize that the real transformation, not just in major changes in the external, but, above all, the change in its internal structure, in the way we see the world and, especially, to ourselves. When we first started to explore this kind over the years, we are faced with a host of hidden truths that often remain hidden behind a routine of self-limiting beliefs, and in a kind of self-deception, without realizing it, feed it on a daily basis. It is as if we are caught up in a narrative that has been built up over the course of a year, in a story that feels familiar, stops us from achieving the full potential of who you really are. When you immerse yourself in the universe as built, we find that the freedom you are searching for, in fact, it is already with us. It's not something that we have to win out there, such as a prize or a reward. It's something that you can turn on when you unlock the shackles of fear, doubt, and the opinion of others. This release comes from a deep understanding of our decisions, and the stories we tell about ourselves and about the limits of that. Oftentimes, we create it without realizing it. It is these beliefs, often inherited or acquired in childhood, it shapes our way of thinking, and that if they are not challenged, and they end up making an arrest in the invisible. And it is that time of self-discovery that begins to reveal the true essence of the impact that our choices can have on our lives. Every decision you make shall take on a new meaning as we begin to see them as a tool for transformation, rather than as obstacles. On the basis of this change in perspective, we come to understand that the journey is not a straight line, but it's a path of ups and downs, discoveries and renovations. And when you accept that as the pivot, we have gained a quiet strength, a courage that comes from within to take on any challenge that may appear along the way. In the process, many are discovering that the universe conspires to help those who are in tune with their purpose more profound. It was as if the world is to begin to open the door, to show the opportunities that are before it, seem to not be seen. This is in connection with the very fact, however, reveals the importance of the freedom of the outside influences that try to shape who we are of opinion that they do not represent us. And the expectations are that it will only serve to push us to our authenticity. The more we get closer to our essence, the clearer it becomes that the true power lies in our vulnerability and our capacity to recognize what we need to change it, without the fear of making a mistake or appear weak. When you make this look, we realize that the journey is, in fact, a revolution is internal evolution, which leads to a state of higher consciousness and inner peace. Each and every step along the way, it reveals a new layer from the US, and with it, a new window of opportunity to rewrite our story. And in the process, and the revelations of that, before you seem daunting if you have become allies, because it shows us exactly where we need to take action to improve. It's like finding a secret map that shows all the points that have the greatest potential for growth. It is a real compass, which guides our choices and decisions. Now I want you to go even deeper on this subject, because, in this connection, the interior is what really makes all the difference in our journey of transformation. When one is freed from the burden of limiting beliefs, we make room for the authenticity of flowers, and it is in this space that we find true peace of mind. Every discovery, every insight, we help them understand that we are much more than just the circumstances that you live in, or the views and opinions that surround them. We are in a constant state of evolution, capable of rewriting our history from a whole new perspective of the spirit, stronger and more in tune with who you really are. And this is to be a bridge between the interior and the exterior. We find that the impact of this change is infinite, reaching to every aspect of our lives, in our relationships, in our work, and above all, to our emotional well-being. This is the secret that very few really understand true freedom. One that transforms the lives comes from the inside out. And when you understand it, you start to realize that every choice we make has the power to take us to a whole new level of awareness, happiness, and fulfillment. But to do that, you have to have the courage to face up to the truths that are hidden, to confront our deepest fears, and embrace the vulnerability, such as a friend too. The further we go in this process, the clearer it becomes that this is a journey of self-discovery, is in effect a silent revolution that has taken place every day inside of each and every one of us, behind the scenes of our minds and in our hearts. And this movement is constantly changing, with each step bringing us closer to more of our true nature, of one's potential, which is often hidden behind layers of insecurity and doubt. It is a journey of discovery, where the highest revelation is that we are capable of so much more than you think. You just need to have the courage to look within and to follow the path that leads us to our own truth. He comments that it makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the journey of transformation is not only about the change of the surface or of the appearance. It is, in fact, an internal revolution that challenges everything you thought to be true about ourselves. The inside of each and every one of us there is some sort of a map to a hidden, full of code, underlying beliefs, and the stories we tell in order to justify our end. And more often than not, these stories, they keep us from moving forward to explore the possibilities that seem to be as distant as stars that shine up in the sky. But in fact, they are a simple look that is different from a decision-making step. It's like we're caught in a web of constraints that keep you in a comfort zone, even when you feel like something bigger is calling us out of it. The big reveal of this process is that it's the true transformation begins in the mind. When we are able to see beyond our own limitations, all things are possible. All of it. It's like opening a window, which had been closed for years, letting in a bright light that illuminates every corner of the gloomy from the inside. And it is this light that reveals hidden truths to those who continue to stay in that are hidden behind our own doubts and fears. From that moment on, everything changes, and that our choices are no longer the impulses of the moment to become the steps, aware of the direction they really want to do. This change in perspective is the one that really has an impact, because it resets to our way of thinking, acting, and feeling. And in doing so, we create a new narrative of our history, one that aligns with our deepest core. It's amazing how, over the course of the journey, we begin to realize that the biggest obstacles are ourselves. It is our limiting beliefs, our judgments, and domestic, that the voice that insists to tell you that you're not able to. And at the same time, it's liberating to realize that all of this is made in a way that we can dismantle and rebuild it, as if it were a kind of puzzle that can be assembled in a different way, revealing a new, more vibrant, more real. In the process, behind the scenes of our mind to become the scene of a battle of silence, where all that really matters is the decision to keep on fighting for a better version of yourself, one that you know your worth and don't be content with the crumbs of happiness and fulfillment. Revealing the truth is hidden. It is one of the greatest gifts of the transformation, to understand that we are the authors of our own story, and for each choice, as small as it may seem to you, it has the power to change the script. Understanding this gives us a freedom that is huge, because we understand that we are not victims of our circumstances, but rather, the protagonists are able to redirect the course of our lives at any given time. And that freedom is, in itself, is a form of transformation, because it puts us in control of our own destiny. As you explore such scenes, built in, we can begin to understand that change is not a one-off event, but an ongoing process of self-discovery and courage in the face of what we would rather leave hidden. And the more we go deeper about it, the clearer it becomes that the true power lies in our willingness to face up to the truths to be difficult to accept our own imperfections, and in turn, our weaknesses in the learning resources. This is the day that we realized that the most lasting impact doesn't come from external factors, such as, but to a change in its internal structure, which echoes through the whole of our lives, influence our choices, our actions, and, most importantly, our relationship with ourselves. For this reason, each and every step in this direction, it is an opportunity for growth, a chance to rewrite our story with authenticity and purpose. And in so doing, we can begin to understand that, in the wake of this new reality, requires more than will surface, requiring a change of mindset, a transformation that will make us question everything we've been taught or what we believe to be the truth. At this point, the question becomes a certainty, fear, courage, and a routine. It becomes a platform to explore the possibilities previously unimaginable. And so, as we go on this journey, it becomes clear that the real freedom is to take control of the process itself. However, that regardless of the obstacles or difficulties in, the path to the best version of it will always be within the reach of an informed decision. Because deep down, the things that we've never been a big achievement outside, but it's a much deeper connection with us, in a meeting with our inner selves more fully, the one that was always there, hidden beneath the layers of insecurities, just waiting for the courage to be discovered. And as it happens, at each step, it becomes an expression of authenticity and a celebration of our own evolution, and that is never, always reinventing itself, as it takes on a whole new level of understanding and performance. He comments that, it makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the transformation we are living through, is not just about the external changes or to take specific action. It is, above all things, a journey into the inner, a silent revolution that is happening in the way we perceive the world. And, just as important, how we perceive it. Every decision, every choice we make is like a seed planted in the fertile soil of our mind, and it is precisely this mindset that shapes the impact that we can have in our own history and in those that are around us. When you begin to understand where the real power is in our hands, in the control control we have over our answers, our emotions, and our actions, and it all starts to get a different size. It is fascinating to see that, very often, the biggest constraints that we face are rooted in the belief that it is not always our own, but that we have imposed in the course of a career filled with high expectations of external conditions and, at times, even unconscious fears. We hold these truths hidden in these narratives that we have. Without realizing it, they have a profound impact on our ability to move forward. And when you expose them, when faced with those types of stories within, we begin to make room for true freedom, one that is not dependent on external circumstances, but a true transformation in the way that we think, feel, and act. It is precisely in this process of self-discovery that we find the turning point, where the journey becomes more and more clear, more authentic. The revelations of inner often accompanied with discomfort, because they seem to defy all of the things that we used to think it was true. But at the same time, it is in the discomfort that you are living in the greatest opportunities for growth. It's like a deep cleaning, an overhaul of our top priorities and values that allows us to look beyond the surface and discover that what really matters to you. When you can't look inside the guts, we saw that a lot of our decisions, no matter how simple they may seem, are in line with a new understanding, a new vision of the world that is being built in a step-by-step. And in the process, and the influence of the impact that we can make, and if it makes it all the more obvious. Because of the change ourselves, we will automatically begin to transform our reality. An act for the authenticity. Every decision you make with a conscience, the echo in our history, and creates a chain effect that goes beyond our own understanding. It's like a wave that spreads out, touching lives, inspiring change by creating a string of chances, which before would have seemed impossible. And all this is happening, a lot of times, behind the scenes of the mind, a fundamental part of what we believe to be possible. The journey of transformation is, therefore, a trade-off between what we are and who we want to be, and what impact we want to leave behind. This is not only to meet the goals of the subsurface, but in a development that echoes in our lives, it makes us more whole, more connected with our deepest values. With each step taken in this way, it is a statement of what you are willing to rewrite our own history, and the challenge of the hidden truth that we are limited, and the building of a new narrative, one that is based on the courage, authenticity, and self-esteem. Now, I want you to go even deeper on this subject, because it is this quest for self-transformation often leads to a confrontation not only with our own limitations, but also the truths we hold. The system is all around us. The influences of the outside, the views and opinions of others, the expectations of society, and this is all part of the scenery, which insists on the need to shape our sense of who we are and what we can and cannot achieve. And in the tangled web of influences that are the real challenge is to maintain the authenticity, resist outside pressure, and to follow firmly in the direction of what we feel to be the truth. Because after all, the greatest revolution that happens when we can silence the voices outside and listen to the one who is born of the heart, of the essence. Such a deep emotional connection with him is the same that guarantees a sustainable transformation, a change that is not limited to a temporary, but what if it becomes a way of life? When we learn how to nurture this connection, we begin to realize that our decisions are no longer driven by fear or by the expectations of the outside, but on the clear understanding of what we are and the impact we want to deliver. And it is at this point that the day-to-day becomes more and more light. The more you align with your purpose of life and the desire to grow and develop continuously, without losing any of the essence. And along the way, the signs that appear many times, we are surprised because it reveals that which was hidden beneath layers of fear, doubt, and uncertainty. They are insights that reveal to us the truth that is within each of us, that the key to living a more fulfilling and meaningful has always been our ability to recognize our own potential, to believe in our own strength, and to act with courage. Every time a new discovery is a piece that fits you in our own history of development, reinforcing the idea that we are the main characters of our own destiny, which is capable of creating a reality that seemed to be far away or out of reach. And so, as we delve into each more in this world of self-discovery and transformation, we can begin to understand what is the real difference is not in the search for something outside of ourselves, but to unlock what is already out there, just waiting for the right moment to bloom. In a journey that requires courage, patience, and a genuine desire for development, even in the face of all obstacles that come up along the way. Because at the end of the day, the connection with our true self is the one who gives us the strength to go on, always in search of a more authentic, more aware, and more for free. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because often, the more processing it is just at those moments when you have decided to face up to the truth, the hidden, which we carry within ourselves. It is as if, for the back of a layer of self-deception, there is a version that has not yet been fully revealed, and I was waiting for the right moment to come out in full force." And this is where the day-to-day becomes more and more intense, the most eye-opening, because you force yourself to look the part that we would prefer to conceal it. In fact, be an act of courage that transforms into our very essence. This is the courage of the brave, behind the scenes of itself, is what allows us to understand that a large part of our own limitations was born of of choices you have made in a long time, and many of them unconscious, driven by fear, belief, or even of a need to please other people. When you dive in deeper, we begin to understand that change is not just an exchange of attitudes towards the surface, but the application of the mental, emotional, and even spiritual. It is as if, behind every decision we make, there is a chain of stories that we tell ourselves, the stories of those who are often not in harmony with our nature. Here comes the importance of developing a mindset of self-awareness, to challenge everything we have been taught that for some reason, we ended up just accepting it as the truth. This is the quest to understand the roots of our story takes us to a type of release, to where we began to realize that we are the authors of our own destiny, even if for a very long time, we've been stuck in the scripts that you do not write it. The revelation of the most mysterious in this journey, it is just to realize that many of our limitations are, in fact, the constructions of the mind that we cannot break down. Such an understanding opens up the space for a paradigm shift, a transformation that affects all areas of our lives, from emotional health to the decisions of the professionals. And in the process of this connection is the most true to our inner self, we can begin to see the impact our choices have on our reality. Each and every decision, however small it may seem, it carries a powerful force in creation and is able to shape our present and our future. The secret, a lot of times you are to understand, that such a power was never far away. It's always been inside of us, waiting for us to step in, taking on this responsibility. As you explore such scenes, built in, we can begin to understand that the transformation is not a one-off event, but a continuous journey of self-discovery. It is as if, with each layer that is removed, discover a whole new world of possibilities and the potential that it had been hiding behind our own personal limitations. And in the process, we have learned to be more compassionate with us. And you understand that the growth in the real, it takes time, patience, and a genuine desire to reinvent themselves. Each and every challenge that arises, by the way, turns out to be a learning opportunity, a chance to strengthen that connection to who we truly are, without masks or lies. This deeper understanding will also reveal what true freedom is born, when we were able to free the mind from the patterns in the trap, the beliefs that are limiting your potential. It is a movement of liberation that comes from within, a sort of a silent revolution that is happening in our lives. And, as we move forward in the process, you start to realize that the revelations of the most significant have not come from the outside, but it's for our own interior, to the one place that too often we avoid looking around. It is an invitation to get to know ourselves, to take our own shadow, and to celebrate our lights on, because the only way we can really improve. And this development, in turn, creates an impact that has been reflected in every area of our lives, changing your routine, your relationships, and the way in which we view the world. Now, I want to invite you to think about all of this. This is a journey of self-discovery, even a challenging one. It is one of the most valuable that you can make. After all, it is the truth hidden within each and every one of us is a never-ending source of potential, a key to unlock a whole new perspective of life. And then, when we look at the reality of this fact, it is clear that the biggest challenge is to accept that we are the only ones who were responsible for the transformation. It's a decision that comes from a more in-depth understanding of the real change will only happen when you decide to look into it, with courage and candor, leaving behind all the masks that prevent us from being who we really are. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because they understand that the responsibility for our change is in our hands. This is only the beginning of a journey that will require more than simple recognition. This is the point at which we begin to question how far we are willing to give up long-held beliefs, the patterns in the trap, and one of the comfort zone many times, it turns out, our biggest enemy. This change in mentality doesn't happen overnight. It is constructed in step by step. As in a work of art, it takes patience, dedication, and, above all, a genuine desire to improve. When we begin to recognize this responsibility, it is also faced with a series of truths which are hidden from view. Some of them seem to be small, but they have a huge impact on our journey. For example, the idea that we are often our greatest saboteurs. We find that what keeps us from moving forward is out there, in the circumstances, the persons and the target. But the truth is, this is all just an illusion created by the mind, which very often he prefers to keep to what is familiar, even if the family home is a prison. It is like we are trapped in a house that we build with our own two hands, and that even if it hurts, that causes us to resist to the door, out of fear of the unknown. Because of this, the true transformation is about having the courage to face these truths domestically. It is understood that the limit is not a matter of luck or chance, but a matter of choice for the day. Every decision we make, consciously or unconsciously, to build or tear down our way. And this realization leads us to a crucial point, the need to revisit our values, our priorities, and our deepest emotions, because sometimes carry loads of old, bad feelings and anxieties that you don't even got to decide, but which have an influence on each and every move that you make. Let go of it. It is a way to make room for the new one, a new version of ourselves, the more in alignment with what you really want. During this time, one of the biggest revelations of this this is to understand that change is not a straight line, but it's a journey full of ups and downs. There are moments of doubt and fear of relapse, and that's okay. The important thing is to be the intention of the firm, knowing that every step, however small it may seem, it is helping to build a mindset that is stronger, more resilient. It is at this point that we understand that change is a matter of choices, daily small actions that, when added together, you have the power to change all of our realities. As if it was a domino effect, in which a conscious decision to do that, everything around you start to move in the direction of a new standard that is most authentic and real. And when you understand it, it is inevitable that we begin to look beyond the surface, diving behind the scenes of your own story. We have found that many of our limitations are linked to an account that you have learned from an early age, often in the form of the unconscious, and they must be reviewed with a curious eye and an open mind. It is also a call to break down what we have been taught as truth and to establish a new narrative, one that is more in line with our dreams and our deepest beliefs. This is a journey of self-discovery and reveals that, in fact, are the authors of our own destiny, and that is, to assume that the author, we can rewrite our story in a way that seemed to be impossible. All of this brings us to the question even more profound: how do we actually change our decisions and actions, which generate a long-lasting impact? How can you make such a change in its internal structure can be translated into tangible results, and that they are not only temporary, but it can become a part of our DNA? These questions and put us in front of a scenario where you have to actually hide it, which is the greatest change that happens in the mind, the soul, and the way we see the world and ourselves. And once you understand this, you begin to realize that each and every achievement, however small it may seem, it is a proof that we are on the right track, that the decision to change is stronger than any fear or doubt. As we move forward on this journey, it is clear that the change is a matter of decision-making, attitudes, and self-discipline. It's a daily choice to stand firm, to learn from their mistakes, and to celebrate the small victories, and keep believing that the best is yet to come. This approach connects us to the invisible force, yet powerful, that drives our development, even in the most difficult moments. And when you make that connection, we realize that we are not alone in this process. There is a world of possibilities opens up when you decide to really want to change. You want to be a better, more honest, and more in line with what is most authentic in all of us. At the end of it all, the big reveal is that the impact of our transformation is much more than we do ourselves. It reverberates with the people around us in the environment in which we live, the way we look at the challenges of everyday life. Each and every step that we take towards change, it is a seed that is planted in the soil of our history, and that, at the time, it blooms into a beautiful, long-lasting. And in the process, we see that the truth is hidden behind all this journey is that the power to change our lives, it always has been inside of us. You just have to decide to invoke the strength, the courage, the faith, and a genuine desire to improve. Now, I want you to go even deeper on this issue, because this is the connection between who we are and who we can become, one of the greatest mysteries that life has to offer. And as you explore such scenes to internal, we have discovered that the only way to truly change is to take responsibility for everything that goes on inside of us. It is an invitation to immerse yourself in the essence of our own humanity, with the understanding that all transformation begins with a simple act of courage, to look into the inside with a sincere heart, and to make the choice to rewrite our own history. It is a decision each and every time. And, in it, emerge the revelations that will change the game. We show that the impact of a change in the way we see the world, and to ourselves, to reveal the truth hidden, that many still do not know. We are the creators of our own reality. If you've come this far, it's because I really connected with this idea that we have the power to shape our own reality. This is something that deserves a daily reflection, isn't he? Each and every time that we understand that the choices we make and the perceptions you can turn it all around us, we begin to see the possibilities in a different way. So, if that kind of content, it made sense to you, let your like down here, because it goes a long way to keep our exchange of ideas flowing. Feel free to also leave a comment by saying something like, "I'm with you till the end," or "It was me," because I like to know that this conversation has come up to you in a way that is true. If you enjoyed what you heard, please subscribe to the channel. Here it is. We always seek to deliver content that helps you better understand your world and yourself in a way that's lightweight and comfortable. And of course, got to the next video here on the side, which complements this subject. You click on it and still am there, it is because it has a lot of good stuff coming up for you to assist you to understand even more in this universe of possibilities. Thank you for being with me until the very end. I hope that this discussion has been a little bit more clarity and motivation for your journey. Until the next video, where we will explore how we can transform our own lives from the inside to the outside, it's always in a very light and authentic.